Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
It says it started.
It says live.
Nice. Wait, why is your back hurting?
I don't know. Started hurting yesterday at the Emily's soccer match. Megan kept making fun of me.
Because you're getting old?
Yeah. Because I was like being dramatic, but it was real pain. I mean, she just makes fun of me because I like show my pain, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hurting so bad. And she's like, you sound like an old whining man. I'm like, well, I'm in a lot of pain.
Do you feel like an old whining man?
I do. Like, I just went for a run. I just got back from it. And I was like, well, I was real excited to go tonight because, you know, I'd hyped myself up. I was ready to go. I was like, man, I think I'm going to do 4 miles, which I did 3.5, which isn't bad. But
nice.
I had planned to, like, run the whole time. But
basically a 5K, you know? It's not bad.
Yeah. So as I'm running, like, I don't know, I did a full mile without stopping, but as I hit like a mile or so, like my my right knee started hurting. And then my back, I started feeling pain in my back. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're falling apart. So I walked a lot tonight. I didn't run the whole time.
It's all right. You don't want to hurt yourself. Otherwise, you're going to stop exercising. And next thing you know, you'll be the size of a Thanksgiving parade blimp. So,
which, you know, I had a conversation with Megan and she's like, you know, I don't really care about looks. I'm like, so if I just stop everything I'm doing and gain 100 pounds, you're totally cool with it. She's like, yeah, I never cared about that, Tarek. And then she made fun of the fact that she's like, did you forget that you were like 330 pounds when I dated you? And for those who don't know, Megan was not a fat girl when I dated her. She's not now, but she was not even close to my level. I was like 330 pounds, like pleasantly plump. Eric Cartman, yeah, seriously. And she's, you know, this
pleasantly plump,
5'4", you know, cute little redhead. I remember I worked at Sam's Club when her and I started dating, and she drove up probably to bring me food or something, and one of my good-looking friends, he was a good-looking guy. He always got the hot chicks, met her. And when she drove off, he looked at me and went, that's your girlfriend? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, she's cute. Like, he was shocked. Like, you should be with some fat chick, dude. You're fat and gross. Why do you have this chick? So she was like, no, I never cared about it. I was like, oh, I'm the opposite. Like, looks are everything to me. She's like, I know. You're shallow and pathetic. I'm like, I know. But
so if I'm hearing this correctly, not only did you marry out of your league, but also you've been given a free pass to be as fat as you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something, man. That's not normal.
Yes. Yeah. She loves me for my personality, which is terrible, by the way. I mean, it's like from the distance, it seems cool because, like, oh, he's pretty funny, he's confident, but I'm I'm not that great of a guy. So.
I don't know if anyone thinks that. So you're okay. I think I'm not sure anyone thinks that you're funny and confident. So it's fine.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me being. No, I see what you did there. That was rude. I got you.
Yeah. Hey, so in between all your exercising, have you gotten to play much video games, or do we want to talk about maybe this week instead of video games, we give like our 5 favorite exercises or something?
No, because I told you when I did this, I was not going to be one of those like I'm not going to be like, dude, exercise is so fun.
Fathers of the Grind is now an exercise podcast, starting with episode 146.
No, I don't care about that stuff. It's fun. I've said why I do it, and I'm going to keep doing it because I think it's important for my life. But yes, I feel like, you know,
make sure you stretch. Make sure you eat some protein.
No, I definitely don't do that. I'm not one of those Sasan nerds. I just get up and go. I don't even pay attention to that stuff.
Head on over to Trader Joe's and no, I can't even go there.
But like video games, yeah, I've been gaming a lot. I'm actually pretty freaking excited because I was on our Facebook page, and somebody posted. I'm sorry, I forgot who it was, but they were like, Ashen, which I totally forgot about this game.
I did too, man. I remember it was announced, and then I forgot completely about it.
I recognized the name, but I did not know what it was. Like, I wasn't like, oh, Ashen, that one game. So I saw somebody post saying Ashen is coming out December 7th, and Below is coming out December 14th. Now, Below, I remembered. I remembered because I've seen people talk about it pretty consistently. Like, they'll just bring it up randomly. Nobody talks about Ashen. So anyways, they posted about that, and I was like, oh, okay. I remember caring about Ashen, but I don't know what it is. So let me go look at it. So I go look at it, and no reviews are out, by the way. This is like December 6th.
Because it was a bit of a surprise. Hey, this is coming out.
It just was like, hey, guys, by the way, these 2 games are coming out. One's coming out in a day or 2, and the next one's coming out in like 8 or 9 days.
Yep.
And so I go and look at the game, and I'm like, artistically, it looks pretty cool. I want something new. I'm going to buy it. So I'm staring in the store this is on December 6th, so Thursday night, and I'm like, I'm just going to buy it. I have no idea if this is going to be good. It was a gut feeling, to be honest with you. I was like, I have a feeling, even if this review's bad, I'm going to like it. So I bought it, and I'm going to just jump into the show with this game because I'm super, super excited about this game. It's just so much fun. I'm probably 4 or 5 hours in. I've beat 2 bosses, and I just do everything. So if there's side quests, I go and do the side quests. I'm not just following the main story or whatever.
So let's set the stage for folks, too, because this is what I'm playing, too. It's developed by a crew out of New Zealand, I think, called A44. I don't really know much about them. I don't know any other games they've made.
I don't think they've done anything else.
But it's an action RPG, very much a Dark Souls type of a game. So it's a Dark Souls clone, without a doubt. So that's just for those of you who don't know what it is. That's what it is. The visuals remind me a little bit of the game Rime that came out last year or a year and a half ago, just with a lot less color. So it's much more browns and grays and things like that, some dark blues. Not to say that it's ugly, but it does have a little more of a bland look compared to something like Rime. But anyway, it's got a very sharp visual style, but not necessarily – it doesn't look like a AAA new game because the characters don't even have faces. So it's really interesting visually. But yeah, tell us a little bit about your experience with it so far. I had no idea, number one, that you'd be interested based on visuals because it looks kind of like an indie game, really, if you just glance at it. And I also had no clue it was going to be Dark Souls-esque. I did not know that going into it. So tell me about your experience with it so far.
Yeah, so far it is very much a lot like Dark Souls. But I will say this because there are people that love Dark Souls, and then there are people that will not touch a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne game. There are some huge differences that I think make it I don't know. I think it makes it where somebody who doesn't like those games or doesn't like playing those games solo, they can still play this game and enjoy it. And what I mean by that is, while it has like a lot of the same systems where you're running around this world with tough enemies, some of them are brutal. I remember I slid down this hill and I faced this one enemy. I mean, he looked like a decent sized dude, but he's not like a boss or anything. He didn't even look like a mini boss. And he just did one like whirling attack that I had great range because I wasn't even that close to him. So I wasn't that nervous about where I was standing. And he one-shotted me. And I was like, oh, okay. Whoa, bro. So some of the enemies are really tough. They can overwhelm you. But here's what I like about this game that to me separates it. And I think it kind of says, hey, we are doing Dark Souls, but we're doing it differently. And we are making it kind of easier. And that is I won't say always, but most of the time you have an AI companion. And the AI companion can also be a real person. So they are kind of taking Dark Souls and combining it with Journey. And if y'all remember, Journey was this stupid, dumb, overhyped pile of trash game that people were just so excited about the fact that you were co-oping with somebody you didn't know you were co-oping with. But there's nothing in Journey that has anything to do with co-op.
If you didn't cry when you play Journey, you're not a human, okay?
Exactly. I mean, come on. But seriously, it was stupid. The whole somebody else could be in your world and journey, but they had no contact with you. They had no impact on your game. This game's different. Somebody could be playing that AI character, a real person, but they are impacting your game because, well, they're playing that AI companion that's helping you kill people or kill beasts or whatever. So I think it's pretty cool how they're doing that. Also, I find it somewhat irritating. Like, for instance, tonight, as I got back from my run and I started playing it, there was an area that I got into where I got attacked by 3 dogs that shoot like fire at you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello, where are you, dude? You're gone.
Yep.
He's gone. So, and no, he didn't die. I think somebody had taken over him, so he had disappeared. And the whoever had taken over him hadn't gotten to my area or whatever, so they were just gone. So I died because those dogs were terrible, and I got stuck on a rock. But overall, I don't know, man. I can't explain it. Obviously, I love the Dark Souls games, and I love Bloodborne, but this one feels like it, but it feels like more comfort food. Like it's not as frustrating. Which for me right now, that's a good thing. I'm just enjoying it, but I'm still dying. It's not like I'm just beating everything without ever dying. It just doesn't feel like hopeless. Like I don't feel like, oh, I'll never get by this guy, or I need somebody's help, or something like that. It feels like everything is challenging right now. So far, I'm not that far in. I've only had 2 boss fights. It's challenging, but it's not overwhelming. And also, I want to say this, the boss fights so far have been fantastic because they're not just like the first, I'll give the example, slight spoiler, but the first boss you fight, you're fighting in like this dark cave and you have a little lantern. And if you don't have your lantern with you, you cannot see this boss. And it slithers around and it goes in rocks and it'll disappear on you. And if you don't find it, it heals itself. So you have to stay with it. So not only are you fighting a pretty difficult boss. I wouldn't say he's real difficult as far as attacks and stuff like that. But you also have this other element of he's hard to find, he's hard to see, and if you don't find him and you don't see him, he'll heal himself. And so the boss fight can literally last forever if you don't stay on him.
And you've got to use a single-handed weapon for that one, obviously. Because, by the way, you can put your lantern down, but with a boss like that, you need it in your hand to follow around. But if you hold the left bumper while you're holding your lantern, you'll put it down on the ground, and then you could pull out a 2-handed weapon if you want to.
Yeah.
But in
that one, and in this one, I know you're saying like out in the area, like you could do that. But in this fight, you had to hold it because it was a big enough area where he could go run and hide.
He does not stay still.
No.
That was a cool first boss fight. I thought it was a nice introduction to, hey, this is how we're doing bosses in this game. And
it's not just going to be this big, overwhelming beast. There's going to be little, almost like Zelda tricks to him. I don't know. I really, really like this game.
Yeah.
Really, really, really like it. I can't praise it enough. I told Tim after I played it one time, I was like, this is a lock for my top 10. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be high. I don't see it being like bottom half. I really don't.
I mean, that's exactly what you want in a video game, right? You've got a really intriguing battle system. You've got, I wouldn't say it's the most in-depth loot system, but it's there. You get a lot of loot.
Yeah, that was what I was going to talk about next.
You can upgrade stuff. Yeah, talk a little bit about the loot system. I know you're someone who loves loot in games. That's really what can get you hooked on a game. It can really, it gives you that dopamine hit that gets you addicted. But what do you think about the loot system in Ashen so far? It's pretty straightforward. You have one armor set. You don't put on helmet and bracers and boots and everything. Yeah. It's just one armor set, and then you either have a single-handed or 2-handed weapon. Those are pretty much the only types of things that you loot. But everything you get, almost everything, until later in the game, is broken, and then you have to fix it on this anvil that unlocks for you in your town after a little while. So what do you think about the loot system so far? Is it scratching that itch, or does it feel a little lacking from what you typically like?
I would say both. I mean, it's still scratching an itch. I think it's better than anything Dark Souls or Bloodborne has done. Of course, there's multiple weapons you can grab in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but this is more frequent. Like, this isn't like every once in a year you find a weapon. Or you buy a weapon. This is you are looting the world. That's another thing. I feel like this world rewards you more for exploration than maybe a Bloodborne or Dark Souls.
Definitely.
So you can find weapons. Like, for instance, I'll give an example. This just happened tonight. This doesn't have anything to do with weapons, but this has to do with just exploration. So I went into a new area, and to the right, there's a pretty hard enemy that you have to fight, and I fought him just to clear him out of the way. But there's no pathway. That area to the right there's nowhere to go. There's a cliff, and then it's a large drop. And then there's, to the left, a bunch of enemies, and that's really the pathway they want you to go. Well, I decided, I was like, no, I'm going to create my own shortcut. So what I did is I went all the way to the right against the cliff, and then there's like a mountain side. And I basically fell down that side and did like a slow fall, so I didn't damage my character. Well, when I fell to the bottom rock, there was like this item there. So I picked the item up, and it ended up being a feather that was a +2 health. So it permanently raised my health. So we're not talking about like just like a potion or something. I'm talking about it permanently increased my health for the game. I was like, oh, that's super cool. Like, I just went over there and fell, and I probably would have never gone to this area because it's all the way in the corner of the world, and ended up getting rewarded for it.
Yep.
That is everywhere in this game. If there's an area to walk, you want to walk it because more than likely there's going to be something there. And most of the stuff that I'm looting is useful. Right. Do I have a lot of weapons that I'm probably not going to upgrade? Sure. But there's a lot of other stuff that I'm getting. Health items, stamina items, there's spearheads, stuff like that that I can use in the world that are beneficial. And then, because I'm still technically early in the game, as I do more and more quests, side quests and stuff like that, I'm unlocking all this crafting options. So there's a ton of stuff you can upgrade. So yes, is it light? Yeah, but it still has a lot of depth. There's a lot to upgrade.
I would say it's on par with something like maybe somewhere in the Horizon God of War realm in terms of the stuff you can upgrade. It's not as in depth as like The Witcher 3 or Fallout or some of these crazy ones that have tons of options. But that's not a bad thing. I like that it's simplified enough. It's not as simplified as something like a Hellblade or whatever else. Yeah. By the way, as I'm battling through this, some of the vibe of the game reminds me a little bit of Hellblade. I don't know why, but then I'm like, man, I wish the Hellblade fighting was like this, because that game would have gone way up my list a couple years ago. But it just, of course, wasn't. I'm with you. The combat in this is very satisfying. Some of those guys you're talking about with the axes, and they do a jump attack, usually as their first attack, and they slam down on the ground. Once you start learning their patterns, I've discovered this now, that a perfectly timed dodge gets you right to the side and leaves you plenty of stamina for 2 or 3 hits. Yep. But then you back away. Like in other games, I just keep on swinging. And I just keep on swinging. I'll take a couple hits, but I'll keep on swinging. In this, I'm readjusting myself to what I did when I played through Bloodborne, and that is take your time. You almost treat even mediocre enemies like mini bosses. Take your time, stay out of the way, because you're limited on how much you can heal. You don't want to have to run back to a stone and get all your healing potions back. You don't want to die and then have to come recollect all your items or your money that you've collected. So yeah, I think it really rewards patience, just like a good Souls game would, and like Bloodborne did. But like you said, exploration is big. You get those dark ashen feathers, which increases your health. There's also light or white, I forget what they're called, light ashen feathers, which permanently increase your stamina. And those are all really tough to find. You have to jump up. There's a little crevice right here that you didn't notice. There was an opening, but there it is, and you can climb up through there. And then you have to get a running jump to this other rock that then gets you into the top tower of this old castle that normally you would never be able to reach. But now there you go. There's a feather. Lots of stuff like that in my experience so far that almost reminds me of, what some of these moments in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'm not comparing it, but I'm saying some of those moments where you discovered something off the beaten path and were like, whoa, this was really cool that they tucked this away in here. This has that kind of discovery and look around every corner because you never know what's going to be there. And I like that. I like that a lot. It's a bit of a punishing game as you progress. Every time you heal up or save or fast travel, all the enemies that you've killed reset. Yeah. So, but you can walk up to a rock. It'll heal you. And as long as you don't sit down, you can go back out and the enemies have, they'll stay dead. until you fast travel or something like that. But yeah, it does get tough. I'm in a dungeon right now that I have tried, I think 5 times now, and I've gotten pretty far into it.
Mm-hmm.
But more than once I've died and left anywhere from 20,000 something, whatever they're called, the solias or whatever, the money, sokias or whatever that is. And then you go to recover it because it's all there. And again, just like Souls or Hollow Knight or something like that, when you die, you only have one shot to go recover your stuff, and then it's gone. That's it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like that. I like the risk reward of all that stuff. And upgrading items has been a lot of fun. The lore is kind of interesting, but not really what's making this game cool. But I do kind of like the lore. They do some cool things with the overall story, and it is voice acted. There's voice actors throughout. It's really good. It's a really fun game. It runs really smoothly. As far as I know, this is only on PC and Xbox One. As far as I know.
It is, I think, an Xbox exclusive.
At least for now. I'm sure it might come out later elsewhere, but I could be wrong. For now, at least, it's Xbox exclusive. And it plays really well. I have teamed up with a few folks on multiplayer, and it's gone well. We were exploring that dungeon I was talking about, and it's massive, and there's tons of super dangerous, one hit will kill you type enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And me and this whoever it was, I have no idea who it was. You don't voice chat. It's like Journey, like you said. All of a sudden, you just recognize, hey, that's a real player. That's not AI anymore. And it'll say, whoever the character is, so-and-so summons you, and you just look to try to spot where they are, and maybe they found a secret, and they're sitting over there jumping by, hey, I found something to loot over here. So I had a couple really good runs with human characters, and then a couple that were annoying because they wanted to go a different direction than I did. But once you separate far enough, the game disconnects you from that person and brings your AI back. So it's fairly seamless, and if you don't like that, you can go into the settings. You can turn off multiplayer. You can even turn off the AI if you want to go just real hardcore, Dark Souls style, just you by yourself. You can. I don't recommend it because at the very least, if your AI person is with you, you've got some meat and extra damage,
well, and I think it's also the game is designed. It feels like to me it's designed with the thought that most people, if not all, should play with an AI companion. Right. And the reason why I say that is this game has areas where there is a good amount of enemies, and they're not just, all melee. There's maybe 2 or 3 throwing spikes at you or spears at you, while 3 or 4 other guys are trying to melee you to death. So, and they'll mix in heavies with, light enemies. So it can get crazy. I mean, that's one of the areas I was just in. There was 3 heavy guys while 2 spear people were throwing stuff at me, and then 2 light, like axe guys were coming after me. I needed my AI companion. He helped me. But one of the things I want to touch on too before we move on from this game is the weapons are pretty cool. Meaning, I started the game with like a
club. I think
a club.
Yeah. And
I was like, okay, this feels kind of stupid. But it's actually pretty powerful, especially if you upgrade it. But I ended up getting like this hatchet, like axe or whatever. It's called a fanged axe, and I upgraded it. And not only is it pretty powerful now because I've upgraded it twice, but it changes your attack style. So, for instance, like with the club, I'll use the club as an example. Club is a one-handed weapon, just like the axe that I'm using, the little hatchet I'm using. So I can carry a shield as well. But with the club, it's basically your regular attack's just this. A heavy attack is just this, but more powerful.
Yeah.
Well,
a little more of a slam look.
Yeah. Well, with this hatchet, the quick attack or light attack is the quick, like, strike, But the heavy attack, you actually do like a flip in the air and you lunge at him and you come down with the axe. It's great. And I was telling Tim, because him and I were not playing together, but we were trying to figure out how to play together.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a second.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, because this is, whenever I use this power attack, first of all, it doesn't even take that long for him to actually process the attack, but it covers great distance. So if I'm a few yards away from my enemy, the enemy might, even though I know it's AI, might think it's safe because it's far away. I just do the power attack and I lunge at him, and I usually catch him off guard. So I really like the weapons, even if they're both a light weapon, they have different attack patterns, and it changes the way the game feels.
Well, and the club does more damage, but it actually
Yeah.
takes more stamina to swing. I've noticed because I switched over to I found this axe called something with it wasn't fanged, it was something different anyway, and I upgraded that one, and its overall attack power is less than the club, but I can probably swing 2, sometimes 3 more than I normally could, so I could do more of a combo with that attack and still have some stamina for a dodge or something like that, which is, by the way, super key.
Another reason why I switched to the hatchet is I felt like
so the club is a little stronger, but it's not as fast and it drains your stamina quicker. I think a combination of a light hatchet or whatever other options there might be. There's some light maces too, and then switching over to like a heavy axe or a heavy club. That's always a good mixture to have. And of course, the shield is great. Like Derek said, when you've got spears being thrown at you, you hold up the shield, and as long as you've got some stamina, you can block those incoming spears. Of course, once your stamina's gone, the shield's no good. I mean, you can hold it up; it'll still hurt you. So yeah, it's a game that requires your full attention, just like a Souls game would. But I'm with you; it doesn't have that same level of, frustration. Like when I played through Bloodborne, a lot of it was fine, but there were parts of it that I was like, dude, this might be the wall. This might be it. I don't know if I can get past this part. Now, of course, it was very rewarding to push past it. And I eventually got so overpowered I could just fly through that. This has a lot of that and a lot less of the frustration. I don't know if I can keep going elements to it. So I find it to be a lot of fun. One of the big drawbacks to it, it does have some cool multiplayer stuff, but it's all what's called passive multiplayer, like Journey. That is, if you're online and someone else is online and you're in the same area of the game, they might sync the two of you together if you both have multiplayer turned on, and then you can go together. You can't communicate with each other. You don't know their gamer tag. You just you see them as one of your AI characters, whoever's with you. You'll just see that they have some kind of extra armor on or whatever they might have. So it doesn't allow you to team up. We tried to send invites to each other. We tried to sync up where we were located and see if we could jump in each other's games. I've heard of some folks who are able to do it because you can set a multiplayer code. So we did a 6-digit code and tried it that way. Maybe we just weren't matched up enough in our progress through the game or something. I don't know. But we couldn't figure that part out, which was a bummer. But I can wholeheartedly recommend this game. How much was this game full price?
$40.
$40.
Or you can do the Game Pass.
Or if you get Game Pass, right.
But I like to own my games, and this is the best $40 I spent all year.
Oh man, it feels like a full-fledged, like as one time, now that I'm into it and I'm looting stuff and I'm exploring and I'm realizing how big the world is. I don't know how long of a game this is, but I'm probably about 12 hours deep, and I feel like there's a lot left. And I've done a lot of exploring and discovering secret stuff. I've only beaten 3 bosses. So even if this game turns out to be a lot shorter than a Souls typical experience, it's certainly worth $40 already where I am right now. Like if I fight one more boss and that's the end of the game, I'll feel like, oh, I wish there was more, but I'll be satisfied. That's a really good game. So I'm not sure how big of a game it is. I'm really not. But I love it. Highly recommend it. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm obviously in the same boat. It will definitely be talked about in our Game of the Year shows. I don't know. I think part of why I'm so excited about it is it caught me off guard. I did not know I would. I did not know I would care about this game as much as I do, and it's one of those few games where when I'm not playing it, I'm like thinking about it. So that's how much I like it right now. Which the other game I'm really playing a lot right now. Actually, it says right here, Ashen is main plus extras is a 15-hour game. So it's definitely shorter than your normal Dark Souls type games.
Yeah.
But this doesn't look like a lot of people have finished it. Yeah, it's one person's beat the game in 15 hours basically. Okay. And I'm guessing they did a lot of the side stuff. So.
I think I'm getting by the end of this week for sure. I'll be at that total. And I'll be surprised if I beat it by then. I feel like I keep going off the beaten path to get different things, and there's a lot of side quests. There's a lot to do. So
yeah, I'm not really playing this game. It's one of those games where I'm not like, okay, I gotta play the main story to beat it, so I can talk about the story and put it in my. No, I'm just like exploring. I'm doing all side stuff. I'm trying to unlock everything. I'm just playing it for fun.
Yep.
And so it's definitely a really, really good game. The other main game I'm playing is God of War. So again, this is playthrough number 2.
Speaking of indie games.
Yeah. And I think it's important to talk about this game some more because I said it last week. it was not high up on my top 10. It was going to be in my top 10, but it was going to be in the lower half because my experience with it was just, it was good, but I was like, I'm not in love with this game. It's not that great. Now I can say I'm in love with this game. It's definitely not going to be in the bottom half. It's moved up, and it keeps moving up. The more and more I play it, the more and more I loot, the more and more side quests I do. I'm not rushing through it this time because, again, I'm not just trying to beat it. If I beat it a second time, awesome. If I don't, whatever. I'm just playing it for fun to experience it. Even though I'm experiencing it for a second time, I think this is really my first playthrough. It's what it feels like because I just didn't get to enjoy it the way I should have. It was just attached to a bad time. So this time around, heck of a lot more fun. It's definitely moved up. I love all the RPG elements. I love getting all the armors. Right now, I have my character wearing, I guess it's called the God of War armor. So it's like a level 8 armor. So I have him wearing all 3 of those pieces. I'm just trying to upgrade all 3 of those pieces to the highest upgrade levels.
Gotcha.
So I keep looting and keep traveling areas to get, I think it's called red skag or whatever. The more and more skag I get, the more and more opportunities to upgrade my character. I'm pretty much so far breezing through the game. I'm not having much of a challenge because I'm kind of, I think, OP at this point. I have everything unlocked on my character except the Blades of Chaos. I don't have them at level 5. And I think I have to progress through the story more to unlock the piece that I need to upgrade to a level 5. And then once I upgrade to a level 5, there's like 4 or 5 skills for that Blades of Chaos that I need to upgrade.
Gotcha.
Other than that, everything else is upgraded. I've upgraded everything else. And I'm obviously working on the armor and stuff as far as upgrading it to a higher level. But I don't think there's any more armor I can get that's higher. I can just upgrade what I have. Because every armor I keep getting now is always lower than what my character already has. Gotcha. But it's just fun. Like I fought the dragon tonight or today.
It's a great battle. Yeah.
I think I played probably 3 or 4 hours today. I had a lot of time with it today. I focus on that more than Ashen. And I don't know. I'm having a blast. It's going to move up. I'm going to talk even more about it in the Game of the Year show, but I just wanted to mention it because I'm really glad I came back to it. And Tim knows I like to come back to games. I don't like to just play games that I like a lot just once. I like to, especially if they have New Game Plus, I like to play them over and over because I think I just like building up my character until they're OP and I can one hit, one shot everything.
Sure.
I'm not at that level right now with God of War. You know, there's still a lot of enemies that take quite a few hits. I've died a couple of times, but I'm definitely having an easier run through this time than I did the first time.
Right.
But
yeah. Also not a super easy game. I mean, you can play it on easier levels. Yeah. But yeah, God of War isn't I thought the other God of War games had challenging moments, but overall weren't tough games necessarily. Yeah. This one had some serious challenge to it. So I appreciate that about what they did. They took a lot of cues from, I think, the Souls series with the combat and stuff like that, which is good. It's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Without making it a Souls game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Game. I like that. Look, I don't mind if companies copy and paste what Souls did because what the Souls games did was pretty cool for combat. It really is. They have really good combat and they make players think, not just go in and button mash. And so I think it's smart that other companies are going, okay, they've come up with a combat system that's not button mashing, that forces players to think, forces them to adapt. It's challenging. It's naturally challenging. But I also don't want every single game to become that. So I like that some of them are borrowing it, but saying, hey, we're not going to be you. We don't want
Creed Odyssey, God of War.
We don't want to be that difficult because we don't want to annoy the crap out of our players because it does take a certain amount of patience. That's why I like Ashen. If you go in, and I want to say this, if you go into Ashen going, I want a Dark Souls experience, a hardcore, you're not going to come on the show and say, that's a great game, or you're not going to agree with Tim and I. You're not. But if you go into it going, I want a game that has Dark Souls vibes, but is a little more relaxing. but still challenging, this is it. This is the game for. I'm pointing because that's what's on my screen right now. But that's the game for you, and I like that some games are adapting to that. They're taking from what the Souls series has done and saying we don't want to be them. We just want to borrow some of the things that they do really well, but still be us. And like you said, Assassin's Creed, God of War, even Horizon Zero Dawn had some very, very challenging battles.
Oh, for sure.
Very challenging battle. They really made you use your brain on some of. They made you use all your artillery and all your weapons, gadgets, and all that stuff.
That's what I loved about that game is different things had different weaknesses, and you had weapons to attack those weaknesses. I loved that. That was great.
Yeah. So I like that a lot of games are borrowing but still being themselves, and I think God of War does a fantastic job of changing the way God of War games used to play, borrowing from modern day games like Dark Souls and stuff, but still being their own game and being challenging, but still not being ridiculous. And because it is an RPG, which I like, or has RPG elements, if something's challenging, go do something else to level your character up or get better armor, or make your weapons more powerful, come back, do the same thing. Like I'm playing Ashen right now, and I'm fighting enemies, same type of enemies, and I'm killing them in one shot. Like literally doing my power, flip, axe, hit, they're dead. That was not the case in the beginning of the game. I was having to hit them 3 or 4 times with my axe. Yep. So not only have I gotten better, but the characters, the enemies stayed the same, but my axe got more powerful, my attack got more powerful. All that's changing, and that makes the game easier.
And there's not really a leveling system in that. Like as you complete missions, you'll notice, hey, your max health or max stamina increased.
I'll say like that.
So that's how they quote unquote level you up, which is again, it's just fine. I don't need it to say you're now level 7 or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah, you don't use your souls to level up like you do in like Bloodborne and Dark Souls. Like if you want to like level your attack or your vigor or vitality, all that stuff with Souls games, you have to use your souls. In this game, you just complete missions like a normal game, like a Horizon Zero Dawn or something like that. You complete a mission, they give you experience, boom.
And there really aren't a ton of stat fields. That's a good point. Like you've got a lot of other games have strength and intelligence and dexterity and all that. Really here, all it is you've got attack power and, there's a critical chance and you have an overall defense. And then you've got like your overall stamina and health. There's really not a lot of stats to worry about in this.
It's Dark Souls light. It really is.
But they do have these talismans and artifacts you can equip and upgrade at one of the tables in your town. By the way, your town grows over time as you complete levels. You'll start noticing your town's growing. And it goes from being this ruin to now they're building these houses and it looks nice. And anyway, it's really cool to see your town grow. You don't do any town management, don't get me wrong. It just grows on its own. And that's been pretty cool to see all the different ways you can upgrade your character, but it's not overwhelming. At least I don't think it's overwhelming. So I like that. A couple of other things that I'm playing is pretty much all on Switch. I'm still playing Valkyria Chronicles 4. Highly recommend that game, you guys. It's really great. I'm several chapters in now. Really like the story. Like I said, it's an alternate take. Not really take. It's an alternate version, I guess, a parallel universe of World War II. It's set in the mid to late 30s, 1930s.
Is it connected with 3 at all?
I have no idea. I never played them, and I'm having fine with it. I'm having a fine time with this one. So,
because I'm wondering, and I didn't do research on it, and I can, but I was wondering because 3 apparently had a great story. I was wondering if 4, because I feel like the guy on the cover of 4 looks like the guy from 3, so I'm thinking it's maybe a continuation. So,
well, there's certainly some history between some characters, but I'm just reading it as stuff that they'll reveal to me later in the game. Maybe it's stuff that I would have already known if I had played 3. I don't know, but there's certainly there's a main character you meet earlier on who really dislikes the main guy because of something that happened a long time ago, and they keep hinting at it. But anyway, overall, it's very good. I love the strategy aspect to it. It's a lot of fun. So I highly recommend that one. I played a little bit of Yoku's Island Express because it had a demo out. It's down to $10 and I almost bought it, but I got the demo instead. Not for me, but I think my kids like it. Basically, it's a pinball game mixed with some platforming. So you platform around as this little bug and you're pushing this little ball of dirt all over the place or dung or whatever you're pushing around. And but that ball acts as the pinball. As you go through the side-scrolling levels, you'll all of a sudden hit these paddles, and they're not placed all the time like regular pinball paddles. They could be off on the side or in a weird little crevice in the game in the level. And then you activate that to go and collect all these items, and it starts to move real fast, very pinball-esque. So a pinball / platformer, I think it's pretty creative. It's very colorful and kid-friendly. Not something that I'm going to play. It was kind of cool to try it out. My kids like it. I'll probably grab it for them if it's still on sale. But played a little bit of that. I also put, actually yesterday, I didn't play. I played a little bit of Ashen, but not much. A little bit with you, Derek, when you and I tried to play. Because I was spending most of my time playing Diablo 3, which dropped down to $40 on the Switch. So I picked it up because, it's the full Diablo 3 experience. Boy, oh boy, that game is great. I played it a while back on the PS4 and thought it was cool. But now that it's not only handheld mode, but it's got all the content from all the Diablo 3 expansions. It's all right there. And they even have some Ganondorf armor and stuff like that. That's pretty cool that it comes with. But this game runs so smoothly. I'm not seeing one performance hiccup at all. Like the screen will be full of enemies, and there's fire and explosions and swinging and jumping and smashing, and the environment's breaking up. It still runs silky smooth, and I'm very impressed by that.
Because it's running at 320p.
It is not. Shut up.
It's not 4K. It's trash.
It looks great. So I'm really enjoying that. That's a fun game to have. I don't know. Right now, I feel like the hooks are getting into me because, like you talked about with loot, you want to talk about loot? Diablo 3 is the king of all loot games, it feels like. So I'm really enjoying that in addition to trying to get through Ashen and Valkyria Chronicles 4. So some pretty deep RPGs these days. The last thing I'm trying to make sure I have time to play is just today, Derek let me know that he bought Dragon Quest XI on the PS4 digitally, which means I have access to it. Yeah. I need to give that one a little bit of a try so I can talk about it at Game of the Year time. I don't want to overlook a pretty major release for a lot of folks.
I was a few hours in on PC, and Eli keeps playing on my monitor, so I can't ever play on my PC. It's one of the reasons why I haven't beat Assassin's Creed Odyssey yet. So I was able to get Dragon Quest XI for $20 because I had some Sony rewards points that I used for some PSN cash, and I played it today. I got an hour and a half in. Looks it's not 4K, but it's pretty close on the PS4 Pro, and it looks amazing on my big screen. So I think it will be easier for me to play it on PS4 than my PC. So I'm going to go ahead and I think what I'm going to focus on right now is Ashen, God of War, and Dragon Quest XI. I feel like there's another game that I had to beat, but I don't.
Oh, you were talking about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Are you going to finish that one out?
Yeah, that's the one I need to finish. I need to finish it on PC, though, and so it's whether I have access or not. Because like I said,
the problem with that is that finishing that game is not as straightforward as it seems. It depends on where you are, and I won't ask you right now, but
I'm at the end. Like there's probably some hours left, but I've already. I won't spoil it, but Tim will know what I'm talking about. I'm far in with the mom, doing what she needs me to do, but I met my dad. And I've already done one of the things he asked me to do, but I've got to do like another 3 things. Right. So I'm got missions to do, but I'm at the end. I've already looked at a walkthrough, and they're like, "You're basically at the end."
There's a bunch of stuff to do. There's even some things I haven't wrapped up, but I've done what I consider to be the main 3 story. I guess you call them story lines in the game. One is, like you mentioned, there's 4 tasks you have to complete. For one family member. There's a family reconciliation storyline that you have to tie up, and you get to make a decision at the end. Depends on how you want to do that. So there's one where you're collecting 4 things, one where you're trying to solve this whole family problem that really kicks off the whole game storyline in the first place. And then there's taking down the cult of Cosmos, which ends with its own interesting twist and storyline closing there too. So there's really 3 main lines. If you're going to skip one, skip the cult of Cosmos and just read about it. Doing the 4 tasks for that family member you mentioned, and finishing the family reconciliation. Those are, I think, the more important ones. But the Cult of Cosmos stuff is pretty interesting when you take out all of those people and you finally get to the ghost of Cosmos, the leader. I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I'm gonna do everything because I want to see everything. Am I gonna be able to do it before we do Game of the Year?
Maybe not, but you've certainly played enough to be able to speak into it, and that's cool.
Oh
That's
yeah, and I've not hidden that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is another one that
good. Oof,
that's
so
top.
good.
That's top 3 easily.
So
So it's just figuring out where I'm gonna place it, especially with God of War. I love Spider-Man. Even though when we did the show, it seemed like I liked it, but I didn't love it. I actually love it. So there's still a ton of games that, and Ashen is, it's got to be top 5. I got to figure out how to do it.
Well, and I still got to throw in games like Monster Hunter World and Detroit into the mix there too, of games that I love. I don't know. I feel like there's been too many good ones since then for those to really fight for a top spot, but I don't know, man.
Big Far Cry 5 fan.
And Far Cry 5, I keep forgetting about Far Cry 5. I love Far Cry 5.
That was my game of the year.
Yeah.
Like lock until we started getting into. So this is past God of War until we started getting into the later.
Yeah, Far Cry 5.
Part of the year, but
2018 has been better than people think.
Dragon Quest 11, by the way, we aren't talking about it a lot because Tim hasn't played it, and I've only gotten, I've played it like 4 or 5 hours, but I'm not far in because I'm playing on 2 systems. But I definitely think if you like JRPGs, this is really good, and it does have like a Super NES vibe to me with the soundtrack, even some of the voice acting. I know there wasn't a lot of voice acting back then or at all on Super NES, but like the way I shouldn't say voice acting. I should say more like the way things are written are so JRPG.
Gotcha.
I mean, it just feels like an old school experience, but when you look at it, now you're not going to get 4K life because you're still on a regular PS4, which is lame, but you'll get 1080p life. I'm sure it'll look pretty, but it won't be at
I'm waiting for that PS4 X.
It's just not at my level.
Yeah, of course not. Of course.
But it's a gorgeous game, man.
Speaking of Game of the Year stuff, I want to give everyone a quick rundown in case you missed the Game Awards. Apparently, I also missed, was it yesterday or the day before? There was a Kind of Funny showcase. So the company Kind of Funny, founded by Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller. Of course, Colin's now off doing his own thing because he made a joke that offended people. But Greg Miller and Tim Geddes and that whole crew of former IGN staffers, they're still running strong with Kind of Funny, and they had a Kind of Funny showcase. I watched about 20 minutes of it and then turned it off because I was falling asleep. Because it was very late at night when I finally got around to watching it. I'm sure there's some interesting stuff, but most of it, Derek, you will scoff at because it is almost all indies from what I've seen so far. Game reveals and release dates, not unimportant ones. Like I know that Super Meat Boy is a very popular series, so Super Meat Boy Forever is coming out, I think, in April or something like that. So they were able to reveal some new games and a new game from Mike Bithell, who made Volume, stuff like that. But overall, a little lackluster, especially coming off of the Game Awards, which I thought had a ton of cool announcements and cool awards to give out. So go check out the Kind of Funny game showcase. Maybe there was stuff in the second half of the show that I missed. So I will continue watching it to see what else they talked about. But the first 20 minutes left a little bit to be desired for me personally. But let's talk about the Game Awards. And now, Derek, you didn't have a chance to watch it, so I'll give you kind of the rundown. You interrupt me and ask any questions you've got or whatever else. It was actually, I think, their best show yet. It felt very much like a E3 press conference for all the companies that also happened to have awards in between the announcements. So I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
I will say this: I didn't watch the award show because I don't care, but I did. Maybe you'll surprise me with some news that I missed.
But you caught up on most of the news, probably, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was caught up on mainly. I didn't care about the awards, but I just wanted to know what was announced. And so there's some stuff that I'm on. You're obviously going to go through that I want to talk about. But just so you know, I got to go get something to drink. So I'll be right back. You can talk, and I'll be right back.
Okay. All right, guys. Derek's going to go get a drink. When he gets thirsty, he gets angry. You have to keep them hydrated, because, the lips start to chap and the mouth starts to get feels like a cotton ball's in there, it's hard to talk. When he gets excited about video games, finally, again, he just needs a drink because his mouth dries out from all the talking. So that's what's happening right now. I can't really see what's going on in the background there, but it looks like he's got a screen paused maybe. Can't tell if that's him or Eli playing something, and the screen is on pause. You know, I just appreciate that he took time out of his busy schedule of catching up on games to talk, you know. And hey, listen, if you guys could keep telling him that he's funny and clever. He appreciates that. I know he's not, okay? But keep telling him that. He'll appreciate it. Okay, he's back. Shh, he's back. So the show kicked off with Reggie Fils-Aimé, Sean Layden, and Phil, blanking out his name, Phil from Xbox.
I'm blanking on his last name. Oh my gosh. Spencer.
Phil Spencer. They came out together. That was kind of a big moment that Jeff Keighley announced, and they came out. I thought they were going to announce some kind of insane cross-platform project. Of course not. But they came out and read a pre-written, hey, we're all gamers. We're all united. We want the same thing. It was very nice. It was a nice kind of opening thing.
I can't say what I want to say about that because it's rude, but
I will say that only Phil Spencer, who I couldn't remember his name, he's the only one who seems like he's actually a human. Reggie Fils-Aimé and Sean Layden both feel like they're robots controlled on the inside by something else. There's just something about them both that's very robotic. But Phil, I think, is cool. It's
probably because they don't play video games. They're probably just like,
and Phil totally does. You can tell Phil does. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was a pretty cool opening. Overall, the orchestra music they played in between was quite good. They had a really high quality, great performance from this orchestra. They had some original stuff that they had written just for the awards show. Hans Zimmer was directing and helped to compose a lot of it. Really beautiful stuff, and they did music from a lot of the games that were whether or not they were nominated for the music. They did music from a lot of the games. I loved all that stuff. I recommend actually listening to some of the orchestra performances. The worst part of the show by far was this performance of the song Devil Trigger, I think, from the Demon Trigger, whatever it was, from the Devil May Cry soundtrack for the new game that's coming out. That was awful, man. It also was clearly lip synced, but it was embarrassing. It was awkward. That was the low point of the show. I hate when they include these rock band performances. It's just really annoying. And then they had this industry icon, this guy, Greg Thomas. If you're not familiar with him, he's been part of Visual Concepts for years, has history with 2K and Sega, a lot of their work over the years, especially in sports games and other stuff. So those were kind of some of the interesting moments throughout. I wanted to do a quick run through of the announcements that I jotted down. I'm sure I missed some, but here's some of the ones that I jotted down. I'll just go through them real quick here. There's a Nintendo Switch game coming out called Sayonara Wild Hearts with really weird Tron-like visuals. Looks like a music rhythm game. There's one called Journey to the Savage Planet, which at first I thought would be kind of a No Man's Sky-esque game, but I'm really not sure. It's some sort of adventure game, and they have not announced which platforms or release date yet. The Stanley Parable, I actually got interrupted as they were doing something there. I'm not sure if it's a sequel or DLC, but there was some sort of Stanley Parable trailer. There's this game called Among the Trees, which looks interesting. Maybe some sort of adventure game set in the forest. It's a PC game. I believe it's on early access, so you can go check that out. Here's an interesting announcement that I was not expecting. Nintendo Switch is getting an exclusive, at least in the year 2019. Maybe it'll change in the future. Multiplayer action game from Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order, coming in 2019. That was a surprise for me that Nintendo got that as an exclusive. It's got that kind of cool cel-shaded style visuals that I think will allow it to run smoothly, and it doesn't have to look like a super realistic Spider-Man-esque game. It can just be a fun isometric action RPG kind of a thing. So I think it looks cool. I'm glad it's coming to Switch. So that was a big one. And I know you liked those first two. At least you mentioned them before. So
yeah.
So Ultimate Alliance 3 is coming out. New Rocket League DLC was unveiled, coming out that night. The new McLaren vehicle.
I bought that. I didn't know it was announced that night. I just saw it on Xbox and I was like, oh, yeah, that's my favorite car. $2?
Yeah. It's a very, very slick looking car, and they revealed that night and said it's available tonight. Here was a surprise one for me that I am pumped for. I finally have an early 2019 game to get hyped for, and that is Far Cry New Dawn. Comes out February 15th. I believe it's going to be Xbox One, PS4, and PC, if I had to guess, although they didn't specify. It is a post-apocalyptic Far Cry game. Major spoiler alerts here. Skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this. The end of Far Cry 5 includes a detonation of a huge nuclear bomb that essentially you lose to the boss at the end of the main villain.
Which is super cool because
It's
that
great.
is not something you normally have happen in a video game.
It's great, and he actually keeps you alive in his bunker and tells you he wants you to see his new world. Well, here we are, Far Cry New Dawn, set several years later in a post-apocalyptic setting. Looks like a lot of fun. I got shades of Rage 2 and a little bit of Borderlands. Lots of color and looks like clans and stuff like that have formed with a lot of the Far Cry stuff that I want to see, taking over forts and hunting and taming pets and getting crazy explosions and all that. So I'm excited for that. That comes out February 15th, which was a bit of a surprise for me that it's coming that soon. Built on the same engine, though, I can't imagine it was a ton of work from the ground up. So should be a nice game to have there early in 2019. A new game from Supergiant, the guys who made Transistor and Bastion. They made this game called Hades, which looks really cool. It's an isometric action RPG with all the Greek mythology stuff. I believe you play a young Hades, if I am reading it correctly. And I think it's available now in early access, so it's still not a complete game. You have to play on, I think it's the Epic Games store, so probably PC only for now. I did read an article that said they plan on releasing this across as many systems as they can in the future, but for now it's early access only, which means PC players only. But that's cool that Supergiant has a new one on the way. This one was really strange, this game called Ancestors. You play as a chimp, kind of back in ancient times. You look a little bit like the missing link. You don't look totally like a chimp or totally like a human, but you're more monkey than human. I don't know. That one was kind of interesting. I didn't think it actually looked all that great, but whatever. Interesting idea called Ancestors. Forza Horizon 4 DLC drops this coming week, December 13th, so make sure you check that out. That looks pretty cool. Scavengers, that looks great. It's a survival session-based multiplayer game where there's some survival aspects to it. There's some multiplayer co-op and versus aspects to it, but it looks like you land on planets and are scavenging for who knows what parts to upgrade, whatever. I don't know all the details, but Scavengers had a cool trailer that intrigued me a bit. Dead by Daylight, I'll skip through a little bit. Anthem, Crash Team Racing. I'm not that excited for it, but I know my kids will probably enjoy it. Comes out, I think, for all systems in June. It already got a release date of June. So Crash Team Racing is coming.
I like that on PlayStation, so I think that will be a game I pick up.
Yeah, I think it might be fun. Here's one that you should care about, Mr. Derek. A new single-player RPG from Obsidian called The Outer Worlds.
Yes, I care about it.
Did you watch the trailer for this?
Yeah, that one I did check out.
Dude, it looks like, Fallout meets Borderlands meets a new vibe of some kind. It looks great. It looks really good. So, and I know you like Obsidian, so.
When's that one? Did they tell you when that's coming out?
If they did, I missed it, so I just put TBD on there. I'm not sure
Okay.
if they put a release date on that one or not. So there's this game that's coming out called Dauntless that looks really cool, and I had forgotten this was revealed at a Game Awards a couple years back, and then we hadn't heard anything from it for a while. This game's coming out in April, so it's dropping this year. I highly encourage you to go check out the trailer for Dauntless. Very much a Monster Hunter style vibe where you're teaming up to fight these massive monsters together. It looks really cool. So go check out Dauntless. That drops in April of 2019. Some PUBG downloadable content. A game called The Last Campfire from Hello Games, which as soon as I saw it, I was like, there's a Derek game. Just kidding. It looks super indie. You probably wouldn't like it.
No.
The creators of the very popular survival game Ark, they made a game called Atlas, which is very much like Ark, except it's set in a medieval fantasy style time frame where there's dragons and there's knights and all that kind of stuff, and wizards and all that. So again, an interesting idea if you like survival games like Ark and stuff like that. That one's coming out. I think it's an early access or a full-on release on PC this month and Xbox One. Xbox One next year, I think.
Okay.
February 15th is shaping up to be a pretty big day because not only will we get the new Far Cry New Dawn, we'll also get Crackdown 3 dropping on PC and Xbox One. I'm crossing my fingers that that's actually when it's going to release.
When is it supposed to come out?
February 15th.
Okay. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so early 2019 is starting to shape up a bit with new Far Cry and and Crackdown 3. Now, I'm not necessarily wanting a major game in January, to be honest with you. I've got lots to catch up on, lots that will keep me entertained through the first month and a half of 2019. So who knows? Something still big might drop in January, but I'm not necessarily in a hurry for another Monster Hunter World type game that's going to suck away all my time. We'll see. Developers of Abzu made this game called The Pathless that looks kind of interesting, even for an indie game, Derek. It actually does look pretty interesting. The Pathless does. There's one called Survived By, out now on PC. They're making a Stranger Things game coming to PS4, Switch, and Xbox One sometime in 2019, I believe. It's an isometric 16-bit arcade action game. Very much reminds me of some of the old school arcade when they went from side-scrolling beat-em-up to more of an isometric style beat-em-up, where it's still 2D pixelated graphics, but a little bit of a larger area to move around. And it's all Stranger Things, the series from Netflix. It's all based on Stranger Things. So one of the cooler moments in the awards show, Derek, you would have loved this. One of the guys from one of the original creators, I think it was the original creator of Mortal Kombat, comes out. He was asked to come and present for Best Sports Game. So he comes out and talks about how important it is to have sports games, blah, blah. He gives this little spiel. He's reading the prompter. And he says, and now let's look at the nominees for this year's Best Sports Game. And then all of a sudden, you see on the giant screen, you see the scorpion thing come through and grab it and then like break the screen and everything goes dark. So you realize something's happening. So then they show this big, very, very, very violent fight scene between Scorpion and who's
Raiden.
Raiden, whatever his name is.
Mhm.
And they announced Mortal Kombat 11 coming out April 23rd, worldwide release. So it was a very clever way to reveal that. And hey, by the way, this is also coming to Switch. Not the most pretty way to play the game, to be sure. That's going to be on PC or Xbox One X.
Yeah, but I'm probably the biggest Mortal Kombat fan you'll ever meet. So to have that game on the go, plus I'll probably own it on PC, Xbox One X, PS4, and Switch.
You probably will.
I seriously will. That is a game I will buy on every.
The idea of being able to bring that with you and set it up and play 2-player Mortal Kombat with somebody wherever you are, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I wanted to say, like, even though I didn't watch the show, I was shocked that 2 of my favorite franchises were announced at that show. And I hadn't even thought about Mortal Kombat, to be honest with you. It's not because I'm not a big fan of it anymore.
Just X feels like it was recent, even though it wasn't. It was
God, it's going to be 4 years old when 11 comes out. But I think it's, for me, I don't play fighters as much. Yeah. And as much as I liked Mortal Kombat 10, and I did, I definitely played it way less than I played 9 or even some of the previous ones before that. But for it to be announced, and then the way I didn't see how they were announced, but when I watched the trailer, I was blown away by the detail, the gore, and that's what made me think, okay, with the new fatalities, they're gonna go into where like you can see and feel everything. Like they're gonna get really, really, really in depth, and they're gonna have to go crazy because their games are really violent now. That even for me, like most fatalities, I'm like, I've seen this before. I've seen it in other games.
Oh my gosh, you're so numb to the violence. You know, this is still a series that I have trouble getting into because even that trailer I watched, I was like, this is so gross. Like this is just nasty. This is just disgusting.
What a wuss. Why I'm getting like pumped. I'm like, yes,
yeah, break him in half.
Yeah, they're gonna have to step up their game, and so I think it's finally time. I've been waiting since Mortal Kombat 2. It's time to bring out the nudalities. I mean, we need to rip Sonya's shirt off and have her flash her chest. I think it's time for Mortal Kombat to step up its game.
All right, well, let's see what they do on April 23rd, and there is going to be more of a worldwide reveal of things in January. So if you're big into MK, keep an eye out on things in January when they do more of a in-depth reveal for Mortal Kombat 11. Psychonauts 2 is coming out in 2019. Really, really funny game from Double Fine. I'm excited for this one. The art style certainly could turn some folks off. It's got a very Tim Burton-esque vibe to it. I'm sure it's going to be another fun 3D platformer with lots of puzzles and very funny dialogue and some fun boss battles. The Psychonauts game was a lot of fun. It was a nice, big, cool adventure with some very creative ideas. looks like Psychonauts 2 is going to be more of that, coming out sometime in 2019. Here's something more immediate. Go on to your Xbox, the Microsoft Store for your Xbox One, and download the demo for Devil May Cry 5. I haven't downloaded. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to give that a whirl. And I believe the demo will also be coming to PS4 if it isn't already. So go check that out. Devil May Cry 5 is scheduled for 2019, I believe.
I didn't play it for long, but I can say this. It's absolutely gorgeous on the One X. I mean, gorgeous. Like, I was like, is this like the PC version? Because this looks crystal clear. This looks really good.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing, that it looks really great. So that one's got me kind of intrigued, Devil May Cry 5. I don't know if there's a release date for that or not. I think
you won't have to buy that. That will be, unless I buy it on PC, that's day one for me. Like, cool. Yeah, there's no thought process there.
Well, here's another one that now has my attention that I have not played the original. I remember watching my older brother play it a bit, actually. Rage 2 drops on May 14th. They had a new trailer for that. Rage 2 looks like fun. Looks like a lot of fun. It's kind of like Mad Max.
Did you ever really play Rage?
No, I just watched my older brother play it a bit. So I don't think it looks anything like Rage 2 looks, but I could be wrong.
No, it doesn't. That's probably because Rage technically ended up being kind of a fail for them. But I absolutely adored Rage. It was one of the few like first-person shooters that looked good on the 360 that ran at 60 frames per second. So when I was playing it, and I didn't know this back then, keep in mind that frames per second wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. And so when I was playing it, I'm like, this is the greatest first-person shooter I've ever played. And it's because I don't think I realized it was running at 60 frames per second. But the combat was fun. The world, it's a wasteland. It is very Mad Max type world. And you have car combat or buggy combat, which was well done, very well done in the first one. So I'm really excited about Rage 2. I think Rage was a really good game that got crapped on a little too much. And of course, it fell short story-wise. It was kind of bland, but everything else was top-notch. So I'm real excited about that one.
Yeah, Rage 2 looks great. And you know what's interesting is this first half of 2019 is already shaping up to be a lot of fun.
Pretty crazy. And then I don't know when you're going to get to it, but one of my favorite franchises was announced, and I want to talk about it.
Go ahead and say it.
Dragon Age, man.
And how did they did you watch the trailer? How they announced it?
I watched the trailer. I didn't watch how they announced it at the show.
Well, it was just with that trailer, and so I had no idea what it was. There was no context given before or after.
Well, here's the thing, and I won't spoil it because I'm still praying at some point in your life you'll stop being an idiot and play Inquisitions, because it's literally a game you would love to death. It's your style of game. I don't understand why you're like, no. Play it.
Wait, what am I like again? Give it. Yeah.
But like, okay, so I don't want to spoil it, but at the end
here we go.
At the end of the trailer, I'm not going to say who it is. There's a guy talking, and the guy talking gave me goosebumps because I was like, oh, God, I cannot wait for this game, because the way Inquisitions ends is it's pretty good, like the main game. But if you play the DLC, it gets even better. Like they even finish it off more. And so when you leave playing everything in Inquisitions, it leaves you wanting more, because they did such a great job of ending that game and setting you up for a sequel. And so I know a lot of people aren't like big fans of like leaving you wanting more. I don't know why they always have to have closure with everything, but they did a good job of closing the game while still leaving it open. And so I'm super excited. And I know Jesse White felt the same way. I saw him commenting on a post saying as soon as he heard this character speak, he got goosebumps too, and that's how I felt. I was like,
for anyone like me who didn't know what it was, all I saw was the Dreadwolf Rises was the hashtag, and I was like, oh, cool, new game from BioWare. I had no idea until I saw people commenting about it. So
yeah,
cool.
It's a really well done game. Again, it's kind of, the world's kind of like The Witcher or Game of Thrones too. The difference, though, for a lot of people and why The Witcher, and I totally get it because I actually agree now. In the beginning, I would have told you, no, Dragon Age is better than The Witcher. Now I'm a bigger fan of The Witcher than Dragon Age. But The Witcher combat is not as good as The Witcher, or I'm sorry if I said it wrong. Dragon Age is not as good as The Witcher, but it's still really good. It's more RPG than.
So to me, jumping in without really wanting to play it, but I remember trying it just for like an hour, maybe one time, a long time ago, and that first battle was like, I have to issue order. Like it was like it went out to this order screen. I just wasn't ready, and I wasn't into it. Yeah. So it felt a little more complex than I was up for at the moment. So people compare it to Witcher 3. I was like, this doesn't feel like Witcher 3.
No, it doesn't. It's not like The Witcher 3 at all. As far as world and Game of Thrones type stuff, maybe. But other than that, when it comes to combat, no. But the thing that it does really well is it's actually plays a lot like Diablo 3. Which you just talked about tonight.
Yeah,
and that you basically have your main attack that you just hold down the button the whole time, and you just keep repeating. And then your specials, they energize, and once they're ready, you can use them, and then they go through a cycle where, and that's how you can play it if you want to play it kind of an arcadey, faster paced game like Diablo. But this is what's cool about it. You also have like I think it's called the strategy button or strategy camera. I think on the Xbox, you click the Y button and it bounces out and it lifts the camera up, and you can now see the whole map, and it stops, and you can then tell your side people, hey, I want you to attack this guy, and this is what I want you to use. And then you can tell your character, this is who I want you to attack, and this is what I want you to use. And then you can then hit it and play it, or you can do it slow-mo. So there's a lot to the game. It doesn't play like The Witcher at all, but there's a lot to it, and it's super, super fun.
Yeah, so in that first battle, they're teaching you a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I thought this is bad. It was more like, oh, this is way more in-depth than I want to do right now. That's why I didn't play it that one time. That's the only time I've ever fired it up.
I was hoping they would announce a 1X, like
an upgrade or whatever.
Yeah, for Dragon Age. I'm waiting for that. I mean, I played on PC.
It'll happen.
And it's amazing looking in native 4K. I really think you need to – I know you're not in a slow time now, but stop buying games for a second and go play that game. I bought it for you over a year ago. You have access to it on PS4 and Xbox One. Play the freaking game.
Well, I'm sure there were other announcements that we haven't covered, but the last one I'll mention was a pretty big interruption as Jeff Keighley was talking, and then the screen was taken over, and it was very clearly by the vocals and the the voice actors and the screen, all the red and the white and black slashing across the screen. Hey, this is Persona 5. And so I thought, this is cool. They're about to announce Persona 5 on the Switch. And so they're all talking, and this invitation arrives, and Joker catches it. Joker, the main character from Persona 5, and he flips it around, and it's got the Super Smash Brothers logo on it. So Joker's going to be in Super Smash Brothers, which, by the way, is out now for those of you who are already playing it. To me, that was a major letdown of an announcement because
I'd rather have Persona 5 on the Switch.
Yes, exactly. I think the Persona games would be amazing on Switch. Now, they still could. The fact that, Sega's letting Nintendo use their character from Persona 5 there means there could be something, but it also doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that it will happen either, because Smash Brothers has regularly had guest characters from other companies, and it doesn't necessarily tie to their full game being on that system. It's just about like, hey, that'd be cool to have our character in Smash Brothers. Now he's not available yet. He'll be available with their first Challenger pack that comes out, I don't know, probably in the next couple weeks or so. So
which I take it you didn't buy Smash.
No,
neither did I. What nerds? We talk about all these games like Ashen and stuff like that, and yet one of the biggest games releases and neither one of us pulls the trigger.
I tried, man. I tried to get hyped for it, and the Game Awards was certainly trying to hype people for it, and I was just like, I don't need it. Like I've got so much to play, and I'm not actually that interested. So
that's how I felt. I bought it I bought Smash on the Wii U.
Yeah.
And I had hyped myself. I watched all the reviews, and then I bought it. And I was like, the way I convinced myself to get it is like, I've made Eli watch YouTube videos. He says he wants it. I'll buy it for him. He played it for about 30 seconds. I played it for a minute, and I was like, why did I buy this?
Yeah.
So
yeah, if anything, my boys have tried the Super Smash 3DS demo, and they liked that. So if anything, I could get them a couple copies of that to verse each other on their DSs. But they would be the only ones to really play it. I think they would like it on the Switch. But like I mentioned, I've got all these other games I'm playing on Switch. Do I really want to tie it up with them playing Smash all the time? Not really. So there you go.
I'll get it, but it'll be down the road.
Let me just go through the list of winners here as we close out. I do got to head out. It's time to get some kids in bed here. Best action game was Dead Cells. Best action adventure game was God of War. Best RPG was Monster Hunter World, winning over stuff like DQ11 and Octopath Traveler, which I thought was interesting.
Stupid, but okay.
A bunch of esports awards that I'll skip because who cares, and a student award. Best audio design, Red Dead Redemption 2. Perfect pick because that game just nails the audio. When you have headphones in, you're playing it. Everything from the horse hooves to the way the animals sound to your footsteps to the gunshots to everything. The audio is just perfect in that game. Best art direction. I was hoping for something else to get it, maybe even Octopath Traveler. You and I have talked about how cool the artwork is in Octopath. But a game called The Return of Obra Dinn won. And I looked at it. It does look interesting, but I don't think it should have won, but whatever. Best mobile game, VR game. We'll skip all that stuff. And best debut indie game was The Messenger. Best fighting game, Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Best family game was Overcooked 2. Best strategy game was Into the Breach, which I agree with. I love Into the Breach. Great game. Best multiplayer game was Fortnite, which I thought was weird because that's been out for a long time before this year. So I'm not sure how that won best multiplayer game. But
did Battle Royale? I think Battle Royale came out 2018.
So technically it was 2018 launch. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Games for Impact was Celeste. Best narrative went to Red Dead Redemption 2 over stuff like Detroit, God of War, and Spider-Man. Best performance went to Roger Clark as Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. I think that was a good choice, although I might have gone with Christopher Judge as Kratos in God of War. I love his performance in that. I thought he was great.
Boy.
And by the way, he and the kid actor who played what's his name? The boy. Yeah. Those two voice actors came up and presented. And of course, the kid was taking his time to open the card. And Christopher Judge, the voice actor for Kratos, goes, "Read it, boy." It's like, oh, that's fantastic. I'm glad they did that. Best score and music also went to Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm not sure I would have picked them. I liked stuff like Far Cry 5 and God of War better, but whatever. I do like the music in Red Dead. Best indie game went to Celeste. I don't agree with that one, but that's okay. That won over stuff like Dead Cells, Into the Breach, and The Messenger. Best sports game went to Forza Horizon 4. I have very limited experience with sports games this year, but I think that's a really good game. Best game direction went to God of War, which I totally agree with. They directed, especially those cutscenes and battles, like a movie. I thought the direction was beautiful. That beat out stuff like A Way Out and Detroit, Red Dead, and Spider-Man. Best ongoing game, Fortnite won that over stuff like No Man's Sky, Overwatch, Destiny 2, and Rainbow Six Siege. And then best game of the year the selections were Celeste, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, God of War, Monster Hunter World, Red Dead Redemption 2, or Spider-Man, and the winner was God of War. So there were the Game of the Year awards. I thought mostly fine picks. I'm not giving away what my picks are just yet. We'll talk about that more in the weeks to come. But I do think it was a pretty good show and kind of tough to argue with most of the winners. They did a pretty good job compared to previous. Like honestly, when Overwatch won Game of the Year, I think it was last year, I thought that was just so stupid. So that was just me personally, though. I know others love Overwatch. So I think they did it a little bit better this time around.
Yeah, I can't. Even if God of War would have finished in my lower half, I always knew objectively it's a really good game.
If they would have picked Assassin's Creed Odyssey, God of War, or Red Dead 2, I wouldn't have been surprised or disappointed. I would have been surprised with Monster Hunter World or Spider-Man, but not upset. I would have been a little annoyed at Celeste because I don't even think Celeste is the best side-scrolling game of the year. But we'll talk more about that in the weeks to come. I love Celeste. You and I talked about it. You don't. I do. But I do think people overplay how important it is for the story of, mental health and all that. I don't think it's all it's cracked up to be, even though it is good. It is very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've talked a lot. You've talked a lot. I've got some kids that need to go to bed for school tomorrow. I think we can call it an episode for 146.
I think it's a good show.
Yeah.
I think any show that I'm on is a good show.
Well, that's interesting. All right. By the way, you're fired.
Which we should have, like, to end the show. Like, we should have a vote for who is the best, host or whatever, since I'm a support more than an actual host, but the best guy on Fathers of the Grind. I think everybody would vote for you, but in their hearts, everybody knows it.
So you're saying on paper I'd get the vote, but in their hearts you'd get the vote.
Oh, it's just like, and this is factual. This is not an opinion. Everybody loves Sasan, but everybody hates me. But the reality is, they're all just jealous of me. They all love me, and they hate Sasan.
Yeah, you would fit in really well with the Kardashians, I think.
Haters gonna hate,
You'd be a perfect fit right into that family. Good luck with that.
Once I get my 6-pack, I'll try to move in with them.
Get your implants. That'd be pretty funny. All right, well, that wraps us up for this time. Hopefully next time you guys hear us, we will be beginning our picks for Game of the Year, at least for some of the smaller categories as we head towards Christmas time here. So pretty exciting stuff. Derek, thanks for your time. Talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?